Hello and thanks for joining us on this Friday. Here are some of the headlines you need to hear before you kick off your Memorial Day weekend. Now at noon, just 6 days remain until the Treasury's default deadline. In less than 2 minutes, we are learning about the makings of a possible deal to avoid a possible economic disaster.
Sunscreen keeps you safe, but does it matter whether you use a mineral or chemical formula? I'm Bradley Blackburn with what you should know before you head out into the sun.
And at 12:22, we're sharing how business owners are giving the gift of inspiration with today's release of The Little Mermaid. But also a gift to us all is this nice weather. Meteorologist Corrales Ortiz is in for meteorologist Nathan Scott. Corrales, please tell me this gift keeps giving at least, right?
Absolutely. It's been fantastic pretty much for most of the week, and it's going to keep on going as we head into your holiday weekend. Here's a look at what the dew points are looking like right now. It's feeling very comfortable out there, seeing dew points in the 60s, 50s, and even in the low 40s across northeast Arkansas. That's some very dry air there in place. Temperatures are sitting in the low 80s right now, in upper 70s to our north. Highs will be around the low to mid 80s, so a few degrees cooler compared to the upper 80s that we saw yesterday afternoon. Tonight, even cooler. We'll be seeing temperatures dip into the mid to upper 50s, even 40s to our north up in the higher elevation. Coming up, we'll have a full look at what to expect heading into your holiday weekend.
Well, a deal on the nation's borrowing limit could be close. Sources tell CBS News the two sides are making progress with just 6 days to go before the Treasury's deadline and a long holiday weekend. Nancy Cordes has more.
We are on approach on so many issues.
New signs a deal could be close at hand after another late night for negotiators.
We've been talking to the White House all day. We're going back and forth, and it's not easy.
Sources familiar with the talks say the deal under discussion would cap overall federal spending levels for the next 2 years. Military and veterans funding would increase slightly next year, while domestic spending would dip slightly or remain flat.
Speaker McCarthy and I have a very different view of who should bear the burden of additional efforts to get our fiscal house in order.
Republicans have been insisting on cuts in exchange for their votes to raise the nation's borrowing limit, which must happen within the week, or the Treasury Secretary says she'll start to run out of funds to pay the nation's bills. $25 billion worth of Social Security checks are scheduled to go out the door next Friday. The ratings agency Fitch just placed America's AAA credit rating on a downgrade watch list.
A default would throw this economy into a recession. It would mean an immediate spike in interest rates. It would cause real economic harm to families across the country.
Republicans had been seeking 10 years worth of spending caps that would have driven domestic spending down by 20 to 30%. Some conservatives are already questioning whether the emerging compromise goes far enough.
You're talking about raising the debt ceiling a significant amount of money. We got to get significant, changes in return.
But this deal, if it comes together, is not designed to get every Republican vote, nor will it likely get every Democrat. It just needs to get enough of both to pass in the House and the Senate in order to stave off what would be the first default in the nation's history. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, the White House.
Well, we go now to a crime alert. The victims of a Pulaski County double homicide have been identified. Officers found 2 bodies Tuesday on the edge of the county line off Highway 161, that is just south of Scott. The Arkansas State Crime Lab has since determined they are 2 teenage males, 19-year-old Lemarian Gilliam and 16-year-old Sakram O'Donnell. State police will continue investigating the case. And in Little Rock, police are still searching for a suspect wanted in another homicide. Investigators say Darius Alford is wanted for a murder that happened on Roosevelt Road last weekend. Police say if you see him, call 911. And also 2 men have been arrested in connection to a 2021 killing. These 2 men on your screen, Naki and Naeem Holloway, were both taken into police custody Thursday. They were arrested for a homicide on Dyer Lane. Both are being charged with 2 counts of capital murder. And today we have a better understanding of Tuesday's deadly police crash in Sheridan. As a warning, this video may be disturbing and hard to watch. It started after officers tried to make a traffic stop The driver allegedly refused to stop, leading to a pursuit in Grant County. Police say the suspect drove erratically and dangerously at high speeds, prompting the pursuing officer to use a pit maneuver. Now, the car flipped forward. As a result, the driver died and the passenger had to be hospitalized. According to the report, both had warrants out for their arrest. The car they were in was listed as stolen, and officers reported finding meth in the vehicle. Meanwhile, a psychiatrist and former chairman of the Arkansas State Medical Board, Dr. Brian Hyatt, has had his office raided by the DEA. Hyatt is currently facing 15 civil suits accusing him of detaining patients against their will, and attorneys say at least 60 more former patients are preparing to take legal action. They say it was part of a Medicaid fraud scheme through his clinic in Rogers. Despite the ongoing fraud investigation and this week's DEA raid, his practice is still open. In February, the Office of the State Medicaid Inspector General suspended Dr. Hyatt's Medicaid services. Then in March, Hyatt stepped aside from his role as medical board chairman. A Razorback football player is off the team due to undisclosed allegations. The University of Arkansas hasn't released his name due to privacy regulations. Because of that, and the fact that there's no criminal investigation underway, we're not reporting his name right now. The Razorback Athletics Department released a statement saying that the issue has been referred to the Title IX office at the university, and the player is no longer on the team. Again, neither Fayetteville Police nor University Police are investigating, with no complaints having been filed. The remains found back on May 4th in Jefferson County have now been confirmed to be Miranda Neal's. Neal was reported missing in November of last year. After a search, her ATV was found, but not her. While Neal's remains have been found, the investigation into her disappearance is still ongoing. A lawsuit accusing the state's congressional districts of racially gerrymandering has been dismissed. This is the third time legal action has been filed to get state leaders to redraw the maps used in the last election, and has been turned away. The plaintiffs in this federal case claim the Republican-controlled board that drew the maps discriminated against black voters when it broke Pulaski County into 3 congressional districts. What's an issue many of you probably have or have encountered lately? A shortage of your prescription medications forcing you to switch brands or go either without altogether. UAMS keeping a close eye on these shortages as the list continues to grow. Chris Hutz, Assistant Director of Pharmacy Business Operations, has kept a close eye on supply and demand for the past 6 years. He says shortages are nothing new, but in the last few years, he says it's only gotten worse. The list of drugs in short supply continues to grow. Drugs even used for chemotherapy now among them.
This is not widgets. This is stuff that are life-saving therapies, and they have to be that drug.
Now, he says luckily they have enough so none of their patients are currently impacted, but there is no telling what could be next, which is why they try to work ahead as best as they can to keep their shelves stocked with what they need or alternatives. Well, many Arkansans are getting ready to enjoy the long Memorial Day weekend, joining thousands on the road headed to their destination. THV 11's McKaylin Johnson just shows us how busy the roads may get this year.
Yeah, today we've definitely seen a higher volume out on the roads today. And Memorial Day is one of those holidays where you should expect to see more drivers out on the road with you. And if you can believe it, even more people are going to be traveling somewhere else to celebrate. This year, 2.7 million more people are expected to travel somewhere for Memorial Day. And of course, the holiday is the unofficial start to summer, so that's just a sign of what's to come in the months ahead. AAA projects 42.3 million Americans will travel 50 miles or more from home for the holiday, and that's a 7% increase from last year. AAA expects this holiday weekend to be the third busiest Memorial Day weekend since 2000, when they started tracking holiday travel. Now, as for the volume on the roads, more than 37 million people are expected to drive to their destination. But some good news, prices at the pump are down more than $1 a gallon from a year ago, and Patrick DeHaan from Gas Buddy says prices could remain steady for a while.
That means over the Memorial Day 4-day weekend, Americans are going to be spending $1.6 billion less on gasoline compared to last year. Barring hurricanes or unexpected disruptions, gas prices should be affordable for much of the summer.
A tip for our Arkansas drivers: before you leave, fill up here in the natural state. Drivers are currently paying the second lowest gas price average here in the country. So a final tip is that if you can, leave as early as possible and get your gas here in the natural state, because you can't really beat the second lowest in the country. In Little Rock, Michaela Johnson, THV 11 News.
Well, thank you, Michaela. And a major civil rights group is suggesting you think twice before you go to Florida. There is now a travel advisory for the state of Florida from the NAACP. The organization says the state has become openly hostile towards people of color and those who identify as gay. Leaders from the civil rights group says the advisory is not a ban or a boycott, but instead a tool to increase awareness about recently passed laws by the Republican-controlled legislature and Governor Ron DeSantis. Advocacy group Equality Florida also issued travel advisories for Florida earlier this year. Well, just ahead, we're sharing some simple tips on how you can reduce your risk of developing skin cancer. But first, let's do a quick check of weather with Corrales.
Yeah, we've had a beautiful end to the week and a great start to the holiday weekend. I'll let you know what we can expect in our forecast and if we can expect any changes to this very repetitive pattern anytime soon.